for Life podcast. I am Landon Thomas, joined by my co-host Shahnavaz Makhani. Shahnavaz, let's pop the celebration bottle.
Woo!
The Mavs clinched not only postseason, which we already talked about. They clinched not only playoffs, top 6 seed, they clinched a top 5 seed this season. Most likely 5, but maybe small chance.
Small chance at 4.
Small chance. And we'll talk about a full season report card. Obviously, y'all have seen that earlier in the season. So now we have a full season. Yes, I know there's 2 games left. It really doesn't matter what happens in those games. I mean, they could lose both. They're still going to top 5 seed. So we're just going to go on how players on the team did for the season. And then we'll have a Luka Dončić, Nikola Jokić MVP discussion. We're not talking SGA. He's not.
No.
We seen the MVP ladder. It does not matter. It's Luka versus Nikola. Okay. All right. Calm down there.
Let it out, Landon.
And then the final word, Mavs versus Clippers. We know that is going to be the first round matchup. We already talked about most likely 5th, but that is the matchup. So we'll just give it just a little tease until next week where we'll break down every single thing in that series. So Shahnavaz, full season report card. So let's start with the bottom of the roster. We won't talk about two-way players, but the main roster, we'll start with one that spent most of the season on the two-way and with the Texas Legends and a little bit with the Mavs. So AJ Lawson, what do you give him?
AJ, I'd give him a B. I mean, I think you saw some of the games he's playing. I mean, a lot of it was garbage time minutes, for the Mavs. Yep. Didn't really play a lot of meaningful basketball. But, man, you watch him play at some of the end of the games, and, I like his athleticism. I like the way he plays. He's shown to shoot the ball pretty well, which I didn't think was in his game. Mm-hmm. It's hard to judge just because – it is end of game situations. It is, kind of, against other scrubs and well, I don't want to say scrubs, against other like two-way guys that are called up. So it's hard to judge that, but no, a B I think is perfectly fitting for him because I really like the potential he showed.
I give AJ Lawson an A.
Fair enough.
I mean, not really. No deep dive into how he played. It's just the fact that he got a not full guarantee. Obviously, the only guarantee season is this season, but he has 2 or 3 years after this that are non-guaranteed.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he got a main roster contract, that and be a real legit on the main roster, top 15 players on an NBA team, his dream. I mean, that's an A for me. That gets the feeling of having, be a real NBA player. No two-way on your name, no asterisk. He is an NBA player. So I give him, even though he might not even be on the team next season because it's non-guaranteed. But,
right.
Just for this season, I give him an A because that's obviously what his goal was for the season. And he strived and he went leaps and bounds over his goal. Is just he not only did he get the contract that he wanted, he didn't have to move. I mean, he stayed. Yeah. Everything stayed the same. And you know what? If the Mavericks go far, he's on the roster. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying what's going to happen, but I'm just saying he's part of the main roster. So this kudos to him.
And you know what? It's somebody, I think, if you look at the way he plays and you look at his length and his size, Derrick Jones Jr. is the perfect guy to learn from if you're AJ Lawson.
Yeah.
They both are very similar in terms of they're very lanky but very long, right? Long wingspan. They're both super athletic. Both have improved their shot. I think he's in a perfect situation to really learn from Derrick Jones Jr., who hopefully will be back. Again, he's on a 1-year deal, but I mean, that's a perfect guy to learn from. You got literally the dude's right in the building, I mean, it's just a perfect situation for him.
I agree. Okay. So Shahnavaz, let's switch it over to Omax Prosper.
Omax, can I say incomplete? I mean, it's like I don't
It's your
really know.
grade. It's your grade, yeah.
I look. I wanted to see more from Omax, and I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day, and was like, "Why didn't we see more Omax?"
Mm,
When you're a playoff team and you are fighting every night like the Mavericks were up until recently, right? To get out of the play in and be, get the top secure, a top 6 seed to make sure you're out of that play in spot. You know, a lot of these young guys aren't going to play much especially when you've got the number of veterans that Dallas does. Derek
mm,
Lively's a different situation, but we even saw, even with the acquisition of Gafford, Lively moved to the bench, right? So asking Omax to play significant minutes in his rookie year when he was already raw coming out of college
yeah.
was just not feasible. And I mean, I think he's going to be a great player. I think we saw, we've seen the defensive game, we've seen the athleticism, we saw the three the other night. We know the numbers he's put up for the Legends and that he's consistently working on his game. If you had to ask me his Texas Legends grade, I'd give him an A-. I think
Yeah.
he was phenomenal for the Legends, but for the Mavs, it's again, it's probably incomplete. I think AJ Lawson played more than he did. I think AJ Lawson, was showcased a little bit more than he was. And it's not a bad thing. It's his rookie year. Like Omax is going to have a big part to play on this team going forward
Mhm.
with his versatility. But for this year, I didn't really see much.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I would go with incomplete, but just for the fun of it, since you did it, I'll do something different. I'll give him a B plus. No, I just give him a B because, like you said, if this was based off, this is tough because he's a first round pick. I mean, he was drafted 24th overall. Um, but at the same time, from what he did with the Legends, that brought me back up to a B
Mm-hmm.
plus, because he has developed, and not only has he developed, just his experience in the league. I mean, he's still 21, but he developed his offensive game, and that's what I really liked about his time with the Legends. Obviously, we haven't seen it much except like 2 minutes in a game at the end of the game, which he's shown some aggression here lately, but since the Legends season is over. But it's good to see with his skill set, with his body size, skill set defensively, and the body size and the body type, and just the archetype that he has.
Yeah.
It's good to see him have an offensive game because he at the Legends, he was doing ISO, he was shooting threes, pick and roll. He was doing a lot of things offensively that we haven't seen. So I'm excited for next season for him, and I won't give him an A because he has developed a lot. He was actually a two-way player with the Legends and
Mm-hmm.
playing a lot of minutes and defending the best guys on the opposing team. So that's great to see. So I'm just excited to see at the NBA level. Hopefully, he can be a rotation player next season. Just to see some development, or maybe the Jaden Hardy role, where he'll play some games for injuries, or when Maxi is out, some rest, something like that. I would like to see him integrate into the rotation slowly. Um, but he is a first round pick, so you would think you would be at the bottom of the rotation, but he really wasn't. So because he was a starter at the preseason, at the training camp. So
Yeah.
I'll give him a B just from what he'd done over the course of the season.
And I think that's fair. I think you give him another offseason of development, and he could be a guy that replaces another guy on the bench. We'll see how things play out. But I mean, if you look at his game, I mean, from a defensive perspective, if he can get he's got that locked down. If he can get a consistent shot going, he's going to play meaningful minutes for this team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Markieff Morris.
I give Markieff Morris an A, man. That dude is the glue that holds this team together. It's kind of crazy to think about, but you look at like just his motivation, the way he's engaging with players, even the young guys. I mean, he is he is in every huddle. He's in every conversation. He's helping out. He's talking to guys. He's cheering everyone on. I mean, he's the Thanasis of the Mavs, man. Like that's what he is. You need a guy like that. I give Markieff an A. And look, even when he came in the game, he wasn't all too bad when he was playing in garbage time, to be honest, knocking down some shots. He looked like Markieff Morris of old, but
Yep.
I give him an A, man. I love Markieff. I love what he's done for this team. He adds, a different vibe, and he's a better version of Theo Pinson, for this team.
Yeah, I give him an A. And obviously, this is not only basketball related. That's why we're giving our explanation right after. It's kind of like AJ Lawson. He gets an A for getting an NBA contract. It really wasn't basketball related, but that kind of is the same thing with Markieff Morris. He gets an A for me as well. I agree with you. He's the voice of the team. He's a actual one of the leaders on the team. He gets everybody together. He pulls everybody together when the lows are lows. He's the one that's voicing his opinion with Kyrie. They're the vocal leaders because they've been through it.
Yep.
And obviously Luka is the leader by example and just talking during games, but just from experience of being low, like you're pulling guys together. So like Jason Kidd, Kyrie, and Markieff has been three of the biggest voices in the locker rooms because they won championships. I mean, each individually, they won a championship. And Kidd, he's done it as a player. So it's just good to see Markieff. I hope they bring him back. He is a free agent, so they need to bring him back just from what he's been able to be. Especially Luka's gave him huge compliments, and Kyrie, they're really close. They came together in the trade, but they're actually close, and they're always talking to each other. So I give him an A.
Yep.
Okay. Dwight Powell.
Ooh, Dwight Powell. I'm glad we're talking about Dwight Powell at the end of a rotation and not at the beginning of a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him a B. I think he kind of fit his role. This is kind of the role we've wanted him to play. Is that third big off the bench, the guy that you play when somebody's in foul trouble or somebody's injured or in garbage time. He again is a very vocal guy on the bench. He's always talking. Dwight Powell reminds me of the dude that, when you're at the rec, and you're playing, he's a guy that tries really, really hard. Like you can tell the intensity's there and he's trying really hard. He's just not very good. That's who Dwight Powell reminds me of. But look, this is what we wanted from him. We wanted him, we wanted to see him play in spot minutes and be effective when he did, which I think we've seen that from him. And he hasn't complained. He hasn't cried about his role. He re-signed here on a lower deal to stay in Dallas in the offseason. So yeah, give him a B. Hats off to Dwight Powell for understanding his role and being part of a playoff team.
Yeah, I give him a C+. I mean, nothing really to hang your hat on with him on the court or off the court. Solid foundation off the court, obviously. On the court, I mean, I don't really see much, but from what he's done, it's okay. So I give him a C+. Just he tries hard. So he's not like you said, he's not a starter or he's not a backup. He's really a third string when Lively's healthy. So I give him a C+.
Yeah, completely fair.
Okay, let's do. Let's make it interesting. Jaden Hardy.
Ooh, this is the one I was waiting for because I think we're going to disagree on this. Boy, Jaden Hardy. All right, I'm gonna give you my grade and give you my.
The easy ones are done.
I'm gonna give Jaden Hardy a C, maybe a C+, and the reason why, I think he had so many opportunities to take advantage of his role, and I think we saw him in stretches where he played great. And against in garbage time he's played wonderfully, but we've seen him slowly kind of get a little bit more minutes in the normal rotation as Hardaway's been struggling, and I just don't think he sees the opportunity. To be completely honest, I think he had a golden chance really to be that guy off the bench that the Mavericks needed.
Yeah.
And he just didn't take it. And defensively, I think he regressed as the year kind of went on. He had a lot of really bad turnovers the last few games. Things that are kind of inexplicable, and you're just like, you can't make that pass, or you can't turn the ball over out of bounds. I love Jaden Hardy. I think one day he's going to be a great player. But for this year on the Mavs, I thought he had a golden opportunity, and I think he squandered it. I think he really let it go.
Yeah, you said C plus.
Yeah,
I give him a C. It's tough because I was such a fan of the season that he was going to have. After last season, like I even talked to him after last season, before the season started. He had sixth man of the year as his goal. Like after last season, he was crushing it. Where you thought he would be in the discussion of a sixth man of the year. He could take that next step. He can have these Tim Hardaway Jr. stats. It's tough because last season was so good, and and he was on his grind really to show what he has in the latter half of the season. This season was weird because even though like the last couple months you've seen him be more I don't know what's the word, but more confident in getting to his spots and making the mid-range. He's getting better at handling the ball, finishing better, pace. His pace is really good.
Better distributor.
Yeah. So you would think, okay, I'm about to give him a B, but then you really look at the totality of the season. He's been even more inconsistent than Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
And maybe like you said, maybe it's his role because he really didn't grasp being that first guy off the bench. Exum took his spot, to be honest, because it was supposed to be it was him, Luka, and Kyrie last year. And Exum came in here and just balled out, as a third ball handler. So the totality of the season, I give him a C.
Yeah.
Because I just thought he would have THJ numbers where he gets like, well, not to that extent, but just get like 13 points a game, have a solid role, and it's really been Exum. So I give him a C on just from the expectations that I have for him.
Yeah, I'm right in line with that.
Great future though if he gets it together. I mean, this is his really this off season that's
his chance.
It's really big for him. Really big for him. Next season is kind of it. I mean, obviously he's super young, but I'm saying like the Mavs are in win mode, so it's either he's gonna play and demand his spot, or he might not play at all, or might find another team,
and
which is sad to say.
That's the point that I've talked to a couple of people that other Mavs fans who are like, why what does Jaden Hardy look like? What is that going to look like next year? Why doesn't he play more? And I'm like, this team's going to win now. Like you're not going to, Derek Lively's a different animal. Like playing the center position is very different than playing a guard position or a wing position as a rookie. Unless you're like a top 5 pick, you're really not going to, and even maybe even top 10 pick, you're not going to start. Like you're not going to play. The game is different. You're going to have to learn. And let's not forget, Jaden Hardy is from the G League. Like Jaden Hardy didn't play in collegiate basketball. Derek Lively went to Duke. Like he played under Mike Krzyzewski. He's played under he played with other NBA guys. Like the guy he knows. He understands that. So it's going to be really interesting this offseason to see what happens with Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, I agree with you because I mean when you look at where they're picked, I mean lottery pick versus second round pick at the beginning of the second round. Even Omax he's going through it. I mean, but then you also look at guys like Jalen Brunson. He was drafted around the same time as Hardy, and he grasped like every time he got an opportunity, he made sure he played well. So
but look at how long it took Brunson, and Brunson played 4 years in college. But look how long it took him to get to figure it out. Like we're talking, it took a couple of years, for him to kind of get
But
to
the
where he
Mavs
was.
weren't. The Mavs, yeah, in those first year or two, the Mavs weren't really good.
Yeah,
They were
so you
slowly
could
getting it.
throw him out
But
there, show
but the
see what he
Mavs are
does.
good now, so that's the
Different
problem. Like you
situation.
said, it's different situation. So I really hope he takes advantage of the offseason and comes back ready, because it looks like he's going to be in the Josh Green role we saw a couple years ago, where he just doesn't play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets better though. Okay, so Shahnavaz, let's move to Dante Exum.
How many pluses can I put next to the A? That's my question there. That dude, you know what Dante
plus, plus,
Exum is?
plus, plus, plus.
NBA Comeback Player of the Year. That's
Yeah.
what he is. Like, I mean, just miraculous. I mean, to go through what he being a lottery pick and then being shunned out of the league because you couldn't shoot, and then coming back and shooting nearly 50% from three and hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, and defensively having the same defensive DNA that you did when you were drafted by Utah a couple of years. I mean, dude is just a baller. Like, he has been a perfect fit for this team. He has been exactly what this team needed. I mean, you saw the biggest him coming back from injury was the turning point of the Mavericks season. Like, Dante Exum getting healthy again and being able to play it, and what he's taken minutes away from Tim Hardaway Jr. He's been that third facilitator that the Mavericks have needed to let Luka and Kyrie play off the ball. He's taking the ball out of their hands when they get trapped. Like, there's a trust there with Dante Exum to facilitate and make the right play time and time again. Like, he's got such a great mind, and he's so smart that he knows what he's doing every time down the floor. And I mean, that shot against Houston with, like, just encapsulated everything. The fact that Luka trusted him and he knew exactly what spot to be in to take that three. The threes against the Kings the week before to give the Mavs the lead that Friday night. I mean, the dude is just amazing, and he's 100% in my book the NBA Comeback Player of the Year. There's not enough pluses you can put next to the A for him, and I hope he's a Maverick for a long, long time.
Yeah, good thing Nico got an extra year on that contract.
Yeah, because he would
My
have
goodness.
paid.
Yeah. I agree with you. I give him an A plus. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we thought he was going to be at the end of the roster. Just as a throw out there. During the end of the games, and just be added depth, to the team. And he's turned into one of the most important players on the team. I mean, you have Luka, who's the best player. You have Kyrie, who's the most important player. Because Luka, he raises, he raises like the floor of your team, and then Kyrie like raises the ceiling of your team. Yep. But Exum is not that far behind, because when he plays, he really, like you just mentioned, I mean, he gives you a third ball handler. His IQ is probably the best, probably top 3 on the team, top 4. Yeah. He doesn't make bad plays, especially after injury, because now he's like he's trying to save his body for the playoffs. You can tell, because before the injury, he was driving all over the place. But his IQ is so smart, both sides of the ball. He doesn't make bad plays, and he's very good at shooting the ball. Like, my goodness, 49%.
That was his downfall. He left the league. Like, to be able to go overseas and come back and hit 50% from three is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. He's so good, and you need him for a long time. Like you mentioned, hopefully he stays for a long time. He's 28 years old, so it's not like he's in his 30s. He's in the prime of his career, and he obviously has injury concerns. That's why he's back on the bench. I really think he should be starting. I think he's the best point of attack defender. But Derrick Jones Jr., he's more stable, and he's the second best POA defender on the team. So it's not that far of a drop off, and you don't have much pressure, much risk having Exum in the starting lineup. So I love what he does. I give him A plus, A plus, A plus. Especially, he wasn't in the league the last 2 years, and he got even better. He has that He has that overseas skill now, and it's just beautiful to watch.
I think that's a huge point for the NBA, that you look at with the European game, like we've seen Jokic, Giannis, Luka, like all these guys who played overseas and then came here. Look at Dante Exum. I mean, look what playing overseas for a year or two did for his game. I mean, that's
Yep.
incredible.
Yep. Okay, Maxi Kleba.
Ooh, Maxi. All right. So if you would have asked me this a couple of weeks ago, it probably would have been a D, I would have said. But man,
Yeah.
that dude has turned a corner the last week or two. Like the Maxi is showing signs of Maxi the old. You know, like we're seeing the Maxi we saw the last few years out of him. I'm going to give him a C plus. I'm kind of teetering on which one. I'll stay in that range, but look, earlier we took, he could not shoot the ball well. He couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't defend. He was kind of all out of whack. The last week or two, man, he's knocking down shots. We've seen him hit some mid-range shots, but his defense has been outstanding the last few weeks. Like, it has been unbelievable. And, when Derek Lively went down, there was a real concern, I think, in with Mavs fans, because you're kind of back to having one big, you're back to, then you got to play Dwight Powell, and it's like, oh no. And I think Maxi really took that opportunity when Derek Lively went down to put in the effort to be the defender the Mavericks needed. And we've seen him block shots. We've seen him knock down some threes. He's just played great basketball the last few weeks since Derek Lively went down. I was really happy with it. I'm really happy the way he's finished the season. And we're going to need him in the playoffs, especially against the Clippers, because he would provide a good defensive presence against those guys. So I'm gonna give him a C. I think he's moved up from a D where he was, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a C as well, because I think I gave him an F earlier in the season, and just for the totality of the season, he's only had 2 great months. I mean, he's been injured or he's played bad, like March.
Yeah, it was awful beginning of the year. It was so bad.
Yeah, January and March were bad, and then October, November he didn't play much. Injuries. So February and April were really good. So I give him a C just for looking at the whole season on where he's at. But right now, in the month of April, in the last 5 games, I mean, you could give him an A minus. Just he got his shot back, his defense back. He's averaging 1.4 blocks per game.
Yeah.
So he's doing really good. We'll see where he's at in playoffs. Hopefully it helps them out. They're going to need him, especially if Lively's not ready to go. Avoiding the play-in was really good, to give Lively some extra days. But now you feel like you're okay. Even if Lively doesn't play, Maxi's stepping in.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so let's go to Josh Green.
Josh Green. Oh boy. The injury really kind of messed him up. I'll give him a C. I mean, I wanted to say incomplete, but I don't even. I honestly can't even remember before the injury what grade I gave him. But I'll give him a C. I think we've seen flashes. We've seen the athleticism. Obviously, the defense has been great. The shots been okay. That's kind of one area I really wanted to see him improve on was his shooting. He was, corner shooting, he was great for a stretch there. I mean, I think he was leading the league in 3-point percentage from the corners. I just think the injury bug hit him, and it just, kind of knocked him out of whack. And you saw Dante Exum kind of take over some of his minutes. Even now that, first game back, but it's going to be interesting to see what the rotation looks like going into the playoffs. Now that you've got guys like Hardaway and Green and Hardy on the bench, it's like, how does that wing rotation play out? But I think a C is fine. I don't think we saw a lot from Josh Green this year. I think we there's nothing that blew me away, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That's why I give him a C minus.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Powell, but obviously different situations, but it's just, he's a guy that always has great stats when you just look at his stats. But like when you look at the eye test, you're expecting more. They just gave him a big contract, like 13 per year starting next year. I mean, next season, this was a make or break season for him, and I feel like he didn't really shatter the glass. I mean, Exum plays better. Derrick Jones Jr. plays better. It's hopefully he gets it together uh, because that's really what they pay him to be is the starting small forward or you be the backup two guard or you gotta be really good at what you do because he was an 18th pick overall and they
Yep.
invested in him financially now. So now it's like, is he gonna play a lot of minutes when the playoffs start? Because that's where you really play all your top guys so many minutes. I mean, is because Derrick Jones Jr. obviously kid loves Hardaway, and then Exum. There's not a lot of minutes to go through, so
Yeah, because
I give him a C minus.
in the playoffs, your rotations are 8 guys, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
you only go about 8 deep at that point. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think even defensively, like now that you mention it, I think we saw some regression there for Josh Green. Like his inability to get over screens and really to understand kind of what direction to go on some of those pick and roll plays really were hurting the Mavs, before Dante Exum came back. Again, another guy, Josh Green.
You just see the difference.
Yeah, and another guy that had a chance to seize that role, like really take it by the horns when Dante went out, and he didn't, and it's just unfortunate to see.
So it's kind of like Hardy then.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a big Josh Green fan. I'm hoping he turns a corner this offseason, but I mean, we'll see.
Okay, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Oh boy, where do you want to go with this one? Man, I want to say D. I really want to say D. I'm going to go C minus. And because if you look at totality of the year, I think he kept the Mavericks afloat when Luka or Kyrie were out, especially when Kyrie missed those games. Hardaway was killing it. And I think he helped keep the Mavs afloat. So I got to give him credit for that. I also have to give him credit. I know he's been in a slump since like January. But I've got to give him some credit, at least recently. I feel like the last few weeks we've seen him really be better as a facilitator in some regard. I think he's making the right passes. I think he's we still see the crazy dumb shot selection, more often than not. But I think just as a guy who is understanding that his minutes are declining and he's got to do what he can to stay in the rotation, I think we've started to see him pass the ball a little bit more and be better at that and make the right pass, like the PJ Washington pass. I thought that was great. I'm teetering on that D plus C minus range. That's kind of where I'm at with Timmy, because I think he could have played a lot better and he could have just stopped taking transition threes and drive the ball inside, but he refuses to.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I was going to give him a D plus, but you just reminded me how he played at the beginning of the season. And then he really turned it on for a little bit in January as well. But just since then, it's been bad. I'll give him a C minus just for the totality of the season.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, it's self-explanatory when you watch and you look at the stats as well and the expectations that he has. I wish he would play more within the flow of the offense, like you mentioned, especially when he gets hot. Just wait for it to come back to you, but he takes those shots that take you out of rhythm, and the other team comes back on you. So, he started out as a 6th man of the year leading candidate.
Yep.
Now he's probably like 5th. So it's tough. So I'll give him a C minus.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So let's start with Derrick Jones Jr.
Derrick Jones Jr. I'll give him an A. He's been everything that the Mavs could have hoped for and more. I mean, I didn't expect this out of him. We all know about the athleticism, and we've seen him in dunk contests, and we've seen him, be a high flyer for other teams. But defensively, he's been fantastic. He's often guarding the opposing's best player. He's been, the one constant on the defensive end, especially before the trade deadline. He's been awesome. And I think he really accepted his role coming off the bench earlier, and that gave Jason Kidd the confidence to move him into the starting lineup. the only reason I don't give him an A plus, I think his 3-point shot kind of went down a little bit. But if it comes and goes, here and there. But I mean, he's everything that the Mavericks could have asked for when you talk about a signing like that.
I agree with you. I would give him an A plus, like Exum, but he's been in the league, so but he went leaps and bounds over his potential. Him and Exum, I thought they were going to be at the end of the roster at the beginning of the season, and they're two of the most important guys. And Derek Jones Jr., I've even said this before, he's one of my favorite guys to cover for the Mavs in the past few years. Just the energy that he brings on the court. He's very selfless. Kid benched him in the middle of the season. He didn't complain. He was still saying the same things and still giving the same effort. And also, just what you've seen from him defensively, taking on the challenges that he has. And, he's having a career year. He's starting the most games. He's shooting the best, even though it dipped here recently, but he's shooting the best 3-point percentage of his career. He's playing the most. He's scoring the most, and it's amazing to watch his confidence, because now you're seeing him drive the ball more than he's ever done in the season. He's more confident in his role, because he was just standing on the corner and catching and going for offensive rebounds. Now he's trying to create offense when the offense is stagnant, or it's the end of the shot clock. He's driving to the lane with his athleticism. So I give him an A for what he's done. It's amazing to see. The Mavs need to sign him as much as Markieff Morris, because he's on a 1-year vet min. Even if they don't get a big name, I mean, just bring him and Markieff and run the same team back, because they're so good when they're healthy.
And I think the relationship he has with Luka and Kyrie, I think is crucial as well.
Yeah, and I think he wants a home too in the NBA. You don't want to bounce around every 2 years. Okay, Derek Lively the second.
Derek Lively the second. I mean, I don't know how you can go anything lower than an A on him. I mean, to the impact that he's had as a rookie, I mean, I don't think anybody expected that. Like, we knew a big man is what we needed, but I mean, the dude is just monstrous. Like, we've seen, and recently this isn't the case, but we saw, even especially before the trade, when he wasn't in the lineup, I mean, this was a completely different team. Mavericks were completely different defensively. But with Lively on the, in the starting lineup, or now off the bench, I mean, you've got a center rotation that averages close to 22 and like 15. It's nuts. I mean, you're talking Dwight Howard numbers, like prime Dwight Howard numbers, and defensively is unbelievable as well. So I give him an A. I mean, for a rookie to play the way he's played, I mean, and fit in this role seamlessly and fit alongside Luka and Kyrie, it's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, I give him an A just for being a rookie. I mean, not only a rookie, because there's rookies every season. Being a rookie on a playoff team, he was starting most of the games before Gafford came. He was starting all the games before Gafford came back, the ones that he played. And like you mentioned, just them together, it makes it even more. You have two starting big men. For, like you said, it's like a 2-for-1. They really have a star center, because it's both of them. You don't really have a drop off with either of them. It doesn't matter who starts. They play the same minutes when they're both doing good in the game.
Yeah.
So it's incredible to watch. He's so young too. He just turned 20 in February. So I'm just excited to see his growth and him getting bigger and stronger. Just what he can do in the next few years.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable.
So we just mentioned his partner. Let's go with Daniel Gafford.
Another A? I mean, how many A's are on this team, man? It's like, it's great. Again, Daniel Gafford, we talked about it before the trade deadline. We talked about who we wanted, the Mavs to go after, and we named the two guys they got. Those were the two guys we wanted them to get. Nico listened and, went out and got him for us. And he's just been everything that you could have asked for. I mean, he's, Derek Lively is like a clone of him, which is which is crazy to have two of the same player.
Mm-hmm.
He brings another level of intensity to Dallas. I mean, the screaming after dunks is awesome. It's something we haven't had since Tyson Chandler. And just defensively has been great. And to lead the league in field goal percentage, I think he's the
Yeah.
first man ever to do that. Is also unbelievable. So hats off to Daniel Gafford to get out of that dumpster fire in Washington and head here. And, just an incredible move by Nico to get him. And I mean, he's played his role perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. It's if I'm giving Lively an A, I'm giving him an A.
Same player.
Yeah, same player, same Spider-Man meme. It's just he's incredible. You said it. You said it all. I don't even have to say anything. But if I do have to say something outside of what you said, he's a great person, and he knows his role. So he's not going to demand the ball. He didn't even care if he was off the bench. And I think that has to do with what you said. Just coming from Washington, coming from the Bulls, when they were bad. He's only been to the playoffs once, and that was a 4-game loss. So 4-1 loss. So he hasn't had much success in the league as a team wise. But now that he's on a good team, he sees how it is. Just in the locker room, on the court, just the camaraderie, just the chemistry. It's just exciting to see him, finally contribute to a good team.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let's go with PJ Washington.
PJ, 3J. I gotta give PJ. I'm gonna give him an A. Like I don't know how you don't like. I mean, you can be in that A- A range, but I mean, the only one knock I would say is the shooting's just got to improve. But
Yep.
I mean, I love the confidence to take them. He's not scared to take the threes, and even after the miss, the biggest issue for Dallas, and you and I talked about it so much prior to the trade, was just the getting back on transition defense, and
Mm-hmm.
PJ, even after a miss, I mean, you see him running in transition, getting back to his assignment. I love it. I love the athleticism that he brings. Defensively, he's been unbelievable. I know there was a lot of criticism after the trade of, well, PJ Washington plays defense when he wants to. No, I think he just needed to be on a winning team.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's back home, he's from Frisco. You can see there's a passion there for playing for this team. It's funny that Dallas tried to go after him last year and couldn't get him, and so pivoted to Grant Williams and then swapped Grant Williams for him. So it's kind of, I feel like it's always been in the back of their mind that this is who they wanted. And if you're Nico Harrison, to be able to pull that off and get him, even if it was 6 months, 8 months later, it's just a work of art. I think PJ has been incredible, and he's it's an A for me for sure.
Yeah, I would give him an A if the offense was there. Obviously, it's getting there. We're seeing it recently, but just from what I've seen, the 28 games with him, I'll give him a B plus because I think there's room to grow, definitely on the offensive end. Just if you're going just defense and what he's done with this team, especially with the tandem with Derek Jones of guarding the two best players on the opposing team. I'll give him an A, but with the offense, still room to grow. I'll give him a B plus. I do love his short game. I even said it. Hopefully they explore it in the playoffs with him as the screener.
Yeah.
And you get him in a short role, just to give a different look than always Gafford or always Lively. Have him as a screener or just pass it to him in the high post. Just give a different look against the Clippers because what they're planning to do with Kyrie and Luka. But we'll go more into that next week. But I just feel like, there's room to grow offensively. I've said it. I think he's going to be a 16, 17 point per game next season. But we're slowly seeing the glimpse and potential of him offensively with the Mavs. But the defense don't change anything at all.
Yeah.
It's really good. So I give him a B plus. Room to grow.
And offensively, he hits 1 or 2 more threes a game. I mean, he's right there.
There he is. Yeah.
Right there. I mean, it's just got to get a little bit more consistent, from beyond the arc.
Yep. Okay, let's go with Kyrie Irving.
A plus. I mean, do we even need to get into it? I mean, dude has just been Not just as a player. I mean, as a person, like Kyrie's just been unbelievable this year. Like I think we have to talk. There has to be something said about that because of the criticism of him. Whether it's rightfully so or not. Whatever you believe, you believe. But the criticism of him and the criticism of the Mavs for making that move last year, and especially in the offseason, and the way he's just put his head down and worked, and the chemistry he's got with Luka, and working with everybody on the team and being that leader, understanding he's the second option, but still taking over when he needs to. I mean, it's just been beautiful to watch. He won his first Player of the Week award in 9 years, last week, which is awesome to see. I mean, he's been more than I could have ever imagined. He's a solidified, bona fide superstar. He's A plus, 100%.
Yeah, and I give him an A. I'll give him an A because, dang, if he wasn't injured, I mean,
No,
I would give him an A plus. He would be All NBA,
hey,
All
count the
Star.
injury. That was Dwight Powell falling on him.
Well,
Poor
he
guy.
had more injuries. I mean,
Yeah, but
but that was the main one.
yeah,
Because man, if he played 65 games, he would be eligible for All NBA because he's playing outstanding. He's almost 50, 40, 90. And the way he's played with Luka, and you mentioned it off the court, he really found a home in the NBA. I feel like we're starting to see Kyrie who he is, and that's why I don't give him an A plus. Just the beginning of the year, he wasn't as aggressive as he is now. But now you're seeing the real Kyrie the last couple months, and he's being himself on the court and off the court. That's the biggest thing. I think he found a team where he can say whatever he wants, and it's more knowing Kyrie. It's not more of New York press on what is he saying this time.
yeah,
He can be himself. If it's about his religion, or if it's about his leadership, or if it's about his off the court hobbies, or or his branding, he can talk about those things and no one really pushes back on him, and it gives him just the freedom to be himself, and that's what's good to see. Because I think this is probably the first time he's really been himself in the league. Obviously, the Cleveland years were really great, but like I'm talking about just off the court, like he chose onto where he has control of all of his branding.
yep,
It's not the Nike machine. And he chose Dallas. He chose to be here. After being a free agent, he could have forced his way as a sign and trade, or how the stars do.
yep,
He wants to be here, and I think he's actually implemented himself. Last year, it was Kyrie playing with a Mavericks uniform. Now, when you watch Kyrie, that's just Kyrie Irving, a leader of the Mavericks.
yeah,
So it feels like he finally is himself, on and off the court, where it's the norm now, especially changing back to 11. It's just everything is back to what he wants it to be in the NBA, and they're winning. So
yep.
A for him.
Couldn't agree
All
more.
right. Luka Dončić, last one.
Do we need to mention? Do we need to say anything about this?
No, because we're gonna go into in the next topic, really.
There you
But
go.
what's your grade?
A+.
I give Kyrie an A, and I give Luka A plus. Okay, so that's a perfect segue. Luka versus Nikola Jokic, MVP. Obviously, those two guys. We've seen the MVP ladder. SGA moved back to number 2, but from my point of view, from your point of view, it's really down to Luka and Jokic for the MVP, especially the last 2 months, last 3 months, really over the course of the season. But now that the Mavericks are winning and been the best team, or the second best team behind Boston since the trade deadline, what's your thoughts on the MVP battle between those two?
Yeah, and I said it earlier. We talked about this on one of our episodes. I think a couple weeks ago. I said Jokic was one. The only way I could see Luka moving up is if the Mavericks got to 50 wins and got a top 5 seed.
Yep.
They're at top 5 seed. They're at 50 wins. Luka's the MVP, and it doesn't matter what the actual national vote is. I think there is. I'll say this. I think there is some sort of because of the way the MVP vote went last year with Embiid and Jokic, I think Jokic should have won last year. That was my personal opinion. They gave it to Embiid because can you really make Jokic, 3 in a row MVP? And he hadn't won a title. Then he finishes second MVP and wins a title. He comes in and he's already the leading candidate for MVP when the season starts, and the way Dallas started the season, yes, they've played the second best team in basketball, like you said, since the trade deadline. I hate the record argument because Jokic won it as a 6 seed. Westbrook won the MVP as a 6 seed. If you look at statistics and you look at the numbers, which is what it should be about, Luka Dončić is the MVP. We've never seen a season like this in NBA history. Yeah. Not only that, he's having the best season of his career, offensively and defensively. He is toying with everybody. He is literally just playing with his food against anybody he plays against. I mean, nobody can stop him. You can trap him and he makes the right pass. You can leave him open. You can put any defender you want on him and he can make any shot. It doesn't matter. So the stuff we've seen him do this year is unbelievable, and it's never been done before in the history of the league. And the fact that he won't win an MVP during a season like that is a shame.
Yeah, I have Luka number 1 for MVP. I've said it the past 2 months. As soon as they got 6 seed, remember that's the MVP train.
Yep.
Starting, and then when they got 5th seed, remember you just mentioned it. We talked about that's when it got serious when he made 5th seed. And I say 5 reasons is why he should be MVP. 1, his stats. I mean, 33.9 points per game, 48.7 field goal percentage, 38.2 3-point percentage. He improved that.
Yep.
Obviously improved the points, but 9.8 assists per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and 1.4 steals per game. That's number 1, his stats. And number 2, you just mentioned it. He improved his defense, isolation defense, low post defense. When he wants to, transition defense. When he's not complaining calls, we've seen it. He goes back on a 3-on-1. He takes a charge, or he makes the right play defensively when he gets back. But isolation and post, he's actually an elite defender. But help defense and transition defense is his room for improvement, and that's okay because what he does on the offensive side is what we just said. The isolation and post, that's a plus. It makes him, especially when the defense, when you have a good defensive team, which they do now, you see him give much more effort. And it's been great this season. I have no complaints. Last season was horrible from him defensively, and obviously when you win, you want to play harder, and he's doing that. It looks like he was doing that 2 years ago, but it's even better now. And then that's number 2, defense. Number 3, the record. We always say 5th seed. The NBA says, well, he's a 5th seed. Nuggets are a 5th seed. Nuggets are a 1st seed, but the Mavericks have the 6th best record in the NBA. That's what gets lost. Yeah. Yes, they're a 5th seed, but they would be number 2 in the East. I mean, it's crazy from just thinking they have the 6th best record in the league. And that brings me to my 4th point. They have the 6th best record when all the injuries. Injuries is number 4. 5 of his teammates missed 20 games. Yes, you can say Murray, but if Michael Porter Jr. missed 20 games, if Christian Bram missed 20 games, if Gordon missed 20 games, like Denver is not the 1st seed. And Luka he carried this team during the injuries when Kyrie was out, And then the 5th one, Jokic said he was the MVP.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all you need. That's all you need. Jokic literally said 100% he deserves to be the MVP this season. Yep. That's all you need. Case closed.
And look, the NBA's little straw poll thing, they've got Luka gets 1 first place vote and less second place votes than Shea, which is ridiculous.
That's ESPN.
And I'll read you this.
They never talk about it.
That's true. I'll read you this because I mentioned this to you before the podcast. We were talking about, the the Kia MVP ladder that NBA.com puts out, and the uproar that I had about this, because the I don't know what they meant, but the wording behind this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, why is SGA? Why did he move up?
So SGA moved up because I'll tell you what his case, quote, tough decision here, given all the momentum Luka generated with wins and eye-popping numbers, while SGA missed 6 of OKC's last 9 games. SGA has still played 3 more contests than Luka, leading a team of virtual unknowns into Western Conference contention.
What?
I'm not done yet. Despite the injury's absence, Gilgeous-Alexander's smoothness was displayed in Wednesday's win over San Antonio. The two-way star has scored 66 total points in 2 outings since returning to the lineup. So because he was smooth against a bottom-feeding NBA team, he moves up to number 2. Now let me read you what they said about Luka. And this is what really, made me boil. Dončić thrived during a chaotic season in Dallas shouldn't be overlooked, with the Mavericks winning 16 of their last 18 games, including Wednesday's 111-92 triumph at Miami. Dončić lit up the Heat for 13 points in the first quarter en route to a 29-point night. Here's what makes me angry. There's no disagreement here if you've got Dončić at number 2. He's trekked a tougher road while cranking out more production than SGA. Okay, so it should be 2. Here's the reasoning as to why not. But he also plays alongside a future Hall of Famer. So you can sit and criticize the Mavericks for getting Kyrie Irving. You can say that Kyrie and Luka aren't going to fit. You can make a big fuss about it for a year, but then when it comes down to it, Luka plays with a Hall of Famer, so he's not MVP worthy.
That does not make sense. You can look back at the MVP winners and say they played with a Hall of Fame player. Yep. And he missed over 20 games. I mean, he missed a lot of games this season.
For me, it's you want to criticize Kyrie and you want to talk about how he won't fit with the Mavs and how it's a disaster up until the point where they're the 5th seed and Luka's putting up generational numbers, and then say, oh no, that doesn't count because Kyrie's a Hall of Famer. Really? Wow. That's what you're going to do? That's ridiculous.
That's crazy. Wow. Okay.
It really made me angry. I was like, this national media bias is so dumb. It I don't understand it. What did Luka do to anybody? What did Mark Cuban do? Why does all of the league hates the Mavericks and hate, it's just Dirk never got his due either. It's kind of like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any
but they did start winning two months ago. I mean, it's kind of like
I get. And earlier in the year, yes,
I'm talking national media wise. Like that's when they started. Yeah. Like Luka's been playing like this all season.
Yeah.
But like national media, they just started coming around talking about him, which they should have been talking about him. Not ESPN. They don't really highlight Luka. Yeah. But like other national media, like real like journalists and writers and on TV and stuff like that. But they're actually giving Luka props. It's just most of these writers are TV personalities and
it's go Lakers.
They don't watch the Mavericks. I mean, you saw the other game on ESPN against the Heat, how glorified they were giving the Mavs defense and how shocked they were. And they've been playing like this since PJ and Gafford got here. So it makes no sense.
It's nobody watches it. I've seen so many clips on Twitter of guys like Keyshawn Johnson saying, "I wish the Mavs played defense." And
yeah,
the only people I'll give credit because I give credit where credit's due. Tim Legler and even Kendrick Perkins, who I'm not a fan of, they've been on the Mavs bandwagon.
He finally came on the back. Yeah.
They've both been on the Mavs bandwagon the last 3 months. But everybody else, it's if the Lakers don't make it, who cares? Why should we watch? What's the point?
I mean, just from what I said, those 5 points, I don't even care what anyone else does. No one can stack. No one can check those 5, off the box because they keep moving goalposts for Luka and stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, just give him the MVP, man. Jokic said it. Just give it to him.
Just give it to him. Okay. Shahnavaz, final word, because we won't go into it as a topic. We'll deep dive into it next week because there's no games from the Mavericks next week. And that's when the playoffs will start. They could start on the 20th or they could start on the 21st. So we'll talk about it on the 19th to get y'all ready for the first round series. But Shahnavaz, what's your initial reaction to the Mavericks versus Clippers part 3?
I think it's perfect. I think it's, if you're a Mavs fan, this is what you wanted. You look at the last two times these two teams played in the hard fought battles, and that Kawhi game 6 still lives in my head. When the Mavericks closed it out. I mean,
Yeah.
This is it. It's storybook, is what I'll say. It's you got to slay the dragon that's taken you out the last few times to get past. It's perfect. I mean, it's literally. And we're not making predictions, and I'm not going to make. We got to do deeper dives into this stuff. But man, this is perfect. Like, this is what you want. Like, we know what Luka does to the Clippers. Getting to see that, in potentially 7 games is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I mean, you got to slay the dragon if you want to be the best in the league. Finally, yeah, you made the Western Conference, but this is a new team. You missed the playoffs last season. So now you got Kyrie healthy. You have a healthy roster, crossing fingers with Lively. This is showtime. I mean, they could say the same thing on the other side with injuries as well. So now it's showtime. Is the best of the best, and may the best man win. So I'm just, without going into details, I'm excited. Part 3. I'm excited for the promos, the videos before game 1.
The Luka back in the bubble. I can't wait to see that 100 times.
You're going to see that. You're going to see Kawhi and PG. Pretty much those 3 guys. You're going to see just the highlights from the past. And I'm excited for Luka, and now he has a teammate that he's confident with. I mean, Brunson caught us by surprise a couple years ago, but now you expect it from Kyrie. So
Brunson was benched against the Clippers. Let's not forget.
Yeah, but I'm talking about just a couple years ago in the Western Conference Finals run. Like, that was surprising.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what gave him. I mean, that got him back.
That led to his stardom in the league.
Yep.
Now he's a star. So it's playoffs is where you make your money. So, but Kyrie's made his money, and he's won a championship ring, and he's made one of the top 10 playoff shots, in the history of the game.
Top 5.
I mean, top 5. So he's been there, and I think he's going to pay dividends because Luka didn't have that teammate that give him experience in the playoffs. Like, he knows how it feels because he was the leader, and he still is the leader. But now you have a leader next to you who's been there to the promised land, not just conference finals, to multiple finals. So he knows what it's like, and that's what I'm excited to see how those two do with defenders around them.
Yep.
All right, so y'all see the usernames. Follow us on social. Make sure y'all subscribe and like on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever y'all get your podcasts. And it's going to be exciting. The next couple weeks are going to be very exciting. Next week is the play-in, and you can prepare for the Clippers. And then, obviously the following week is when playoffs start. So
it's going to be great.
Shahnavaz, thanks as always.
Of course.
We'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye, everyone.